Welcome back, everybody, to the Legendary Series hosted by ESL. Our next series is going to be also one from the winners round number one. Here to bring me the action is Frodan and Azumo QT. And we had our first series, which was a 3-0. A little disappointing for Silent Storm, considering that we were coming in knowing him,
Yeah,
not too much about KXN. But you know what? In the end, that's just what Hearthstone is sometimes.
yeah.
You try to bring a little bit too different. You try to rock the boat a little bit too much, and you get thrown off of it. Silent Storm, unfortunately, even though he brought innovative decks here, is not going to be going on to the next round yet. He still has to go to a loser's bracket to try to see if he can fight for second place.
Yeah, I heard Undertaker was a pretty decent card, so KXN utilizing the death rattles in all three of his decks. But you can see on your screen the brackets there, of course, KXN moving on to that winner's round. And Silent Storm will have that other chance. The next match will be between conorlol and XiaoGz.
Xiao. GZ. In Chinese pinging, you say that like X as an S, like a SH, like Xiao.
Lessons with Frodan.
Yeah. So, it's just because in Chinese, a lot of the people really like using nicknames or usernames as, like, small something. It's like a way to make it cute.
Yeah.
So, in Dota 2 specifically, there's a lot of people who have Xiao in front of it, like Xiao 8, for example.
Yeah, even in League of Legends as well, there's quite a few players.
Yeah. So, not too much in the creativity department in
Yeah.
terms of usernames, but they're really good in the talent department for most gaming things.
Yep.
All right, so going into XiaoGz versus Connor, I would say. I'm not sure if it's Connor, but we don't know too much about these guys. But that's the beauty of the Open Finals. It's an opportunity for a lot of people to try and play. And I look at the LOL at the end of the name too, and it makes me think that this is a guy coming from a different game background as well.
Yeah.
Which is also fun because one of my favorite things to do is to look at tournament winners and see what background they have, and they come from Magic the Gathering, they come from Warcraft 3, they come from StarCraft 2 even, and all these different backgrounds. And Hearthstone can gather people because in the end it's a fun game that a lot of people can easily get into.
Yeah, that fix on the end of their name, I suffered from a little bit of the same thing. That lol can sometimes stick with you for a while. I definitely did not put cutie at the end of my name on purpose. When I started playing games, I just always went on servers that Azuma was already taken, so I was forced to put on the cutie, and then it stuck. So maybe Connor, maybe he doesn't even like the lol on the end of his name. Maybe he wishes he could get rid of it, but there's another Connor with one N out there somewhere
probably
who has his identity and is not willing to give it up.
Maybe he actually just laughs a lot.
Maybe he does, yeah. We'll have to see. We'll get to see his player cam as he's playing. So
maybe if he's the one playing Undertakers and getting them on turn one, he will be the one laughing today. We'll
guffawing, maybe even.
Guffawing. No one guffaws. Not even in England.
That's where conorlol is from, I believe.
Oh, is he from England?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
maybe he actually is guffawing if he actually gets those draws.
Okay.
Well, I believe we can get ready for the first.
Just kidding. Connor's from America. Just got word.
Oh, okay.
His profile on ESL actually said UK, so he lied. Maybe that's part of the
I guess that's originally where America's from, right?
That's true. So I guess everybody
We're
from
just
America.
paying homage to our roots.
Yep.
Well, I don't know too much about XiaoGz, although I did learn before the cast that he's actually a friend of a well-known connected manager of Pongze, who's the guy who's here for BlizzCon, taking care of Tiddler Celestial, Run and Gun, Nicholas, etc. So he's part of that circle of friends who play a lot of Hearthstone in China, and that alone tells me that he's probably a really good player. In my opinion, I think the Chinese region has shot up in skill so much because of how seriously Hearthstone is being taken over there. Like, it's like full-on esports in China for Hearthstone. They love it so much, and they pay so much money and so many crazy prize pools. Like, the Ferrari reward is actually going to go through, like, they're going to offer that to some big tournament soon. Like, a kid's going to win a Ferrari playing Hearthstone. I think China's the second best region in the world at the moment behind America.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And once a game takes off in China, it takes off so quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
And really evident with Hearthstone especially. So it looks like we are jumping into the match here, so we can take a look at the deck matchups. The first game will actually be Hunter versus Druid. So both of these players bringing the Druid deck in here. We didn't see Druid in the first series of the day. But you said before the tournament started that you were expecting quite a bit of Druid today.
I was. And we only see two players going for Druid. I did expect a lot of Hunter as well. I thought those two cuts would be the most popular ones.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, we see no Warlock. And I think that directly has to do with the Soulfire changes. Just because I feel like bringing Warlock is smarter than bringing a Hunter at the moment. Just
Okay.
because of the format.
Okay.
The fact that you don't know if it's going to be a handlock or a zoom.
Yeah.
But I think because of the nerf, it scared these guys away a little bit. Versus Hunter, you always know what you need to mulligan for.
Yeah.
Oh, I need a Fiery War.
Yeah.
Oh, I want like the Innervate Keeper. Like, that's pretty much straightforward from that point on. Versus with Warlocks, always like I could actually just lose the game. So the sheer power level of Mystique, in my opinion, warrants Warlock to always be brought.
Yeah, and players are usually tentative to play a class right away after a nerf because you just don't know
True.
how much it's going to affect until you really dive deep into it. I mean, when Unleash the Hounds was nerfed, a lot of Hunter players were crying out that Hunter's not going to be as great as it was. I mean, it was just increased by 1 mana. And Starving Buzzard also, when that was moved to be 5 mana and buffed a little bit with his stats, players were saying, oh, man, Hunter's going to struggle a lot. And then all of a sudden, Nax was released, but still it's those cards, at least Unleash the Hounds, is still seeing play, and it's not like it synergizes well with any of the Nax cards. It's just good with Knife Juggler, which was always in the game.
Exactly. I think people they jumped they jumped the ship a little early to say like, oh, Undertaker's here, like it's all over. But the reality is, there's a lot of culprits in what makes Hunter strong. The fact that they have a lot of great synergy with beasts, kill command. It could be such a strong finisher, despite how much you stabilize.
Yeah.
The hero power is very good for one thing, which is taking down the opponent, and that's what's gonna change once GVG comes out. That's the whole point of like why that sniper card came out, so you can use a hero power to target. So overall, I'm really looking forward to see more like archetypes of Hunter. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah.
As much as I see a lot of Hunter everywhere, it's like cool, you play Hunter. You're great at
It's always
Hearthstone.
the same deck with just a couple cards switched around, maybe a couple tech cards added in.
I'm thinking as soon as GVG hits next week, we're going to see a lot of people mix it up with Control Hunter. And that might change people's opinions to be like, well, I was okay with Hunter before, but now I really hate Hunter because I lose to Control and mid-range and aggro.
Sort of a similar story to Warlock. Warlock has those two different main archetypes.
Mm-hmm.
There was even that Demon Warlock that was powerful for a long time.
It's going to make a comeback.
Yeah.
I think Demon Lock's going to be a real thing soon.
I still see it on ladder every once in a while, and it's really cool to see those Legend players that are still rocking. Who knows if they climbed with it, but it's pretty cool to see them still rocking the Demon deck.
All right, so we're going to kick things off with Druid versus Hunter. And, Hunter really values being able to get such a good start. And before, you used to say that high main was the main culprit of being able to seal the game. But I think because of the nature of how explosive the mana curve could be with Undertaker, I think you have to go for it as hard as you can.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie, Frodan. I didn't realize that those were still images, and I just thought these players were being very, very focused.
Yeah, actually, now that you say it, I know it's the same exact thing. It seems like we got them off of the Skype picture here. But you know what? It's probably just because we needed to get this as soon as possible. I mean, it's really hard to get XiaoGz, a webcam live in 60 frames per second, HD quality from China. It's like, we're not going to be able to get that. So for stability purposes, we're just going to stick with still images here. Now, coining out the Mad Scientist, great. It's the most power. It gets you a lot of good tempo. The way I always thought getting Mad Scientist out first was like Innervate, right?
Yeah.
You Innervate the trap out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this is a little bit interesting of a Druid deck. This is very similar to the Druid deck that Kalento's been running quite a bit. Very token heavy. And I'm not sure if that's going to be that great against Hunter. He's got a pretty decent start, and he's got a lot of ways to trade with these early creatures that he's going to put out. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious to see what else he's going to round off this deck with. If it's exactly like Kalento's. We did see Spectral Knight in his opening hand, in his mulligan hand.
You don't like this kind of Druid against Hunter? I personally think it's the best kind of possible.
Oh, well, against Hunter, this is, out of all the Druid decks, I do like this this specific Hunter, or this specific Druid deck against Hunter the most out of any other Druid deck. Mm-hmm. But I still think Hunter has a pretty good matchup against this one. It depends on your early draws because, again, as a Druid, you can always get caught with a pretty bad hand.
True.
Even if you're playing the faster type of Druid, it's still possible for you to get caught with the hand where you just get overwhelmed. And Druids, a lot of the time, as soon as they lose that board control, as soon as they overwhelmingly lose board control, it's really hard for them to get it back because a lot of their removal is very situational, or they just don't have the cards to be able to sort of really impact the board all at once.
This is hilarious. Flare 2 mana, doesn't matter. Still killed off Shade, still played out Curve.
Yep.
And that's probably the only Flare in his deck, and that's the only one he'll need. I personally think this Druid deck is okay, you know, borderline even fine. You stabilize pretty decently because you have so much early game. And a lot of times, Hunters sometimes have to control you. Like, they're the control player if you're the one being really aggressive with Savage Roar. That's a test for Snake Trap. And this is actually okay for Druid because you're a class that's fine with racing. Yeah. Because you have Savage Roar. Now hold on, he's got Siege Giant. Okay, so this is that kind of Hunter deck where I wouldn't even be surprised if he plays Leroy in this deck.
It synergizes very well with cards like Haunted Creeper and Snake Trap, so you can get a really cheap Siege Giant early on, and that could be something that just surprises your opponent. A lot of times, especially Druid players, will focus a lot on sometimes they won't clear if they're going to try and race, and sometimes if they don't race, they're focusing a lot on actually clearing those smaller minions. And sometimes when that Siege Giant comes out, they just won't have an answer. I'm not sure if he plays Big Game Hunter in this deck.
That's really cool. Considering Haunted Creeper is almost in every deck now.
Yeah.
And even putting out these Echoing Ooze contributes towards that cause. I'm going to count that Siege Giant costs 5 next turn, and he's going to have 5 mana. Wow.
And then he could even follow it up with a Savannah Highmane on the following turn. So I wish we could see
and
Connor's reaction to this one. Oh, man.
Yeah, this is not good. He doesn't have a direct answer for that Giant, but he's got Black Knight to get past this, so he doesn't have to give up a lot of his board. And you know what? Maybe he can start counter pressure because it is Snake Trap, and he knows it.
Yeah,
definitely. The problem is, can he race?
Yeah, definitely can play around it. It's going to be really dependent on how fast he can draw into the Savage Roar, because that's going to be a big deal allowing him to finish this game.
You've got a race here, right? You're not going to be playing cleanup if you know he has Snake Trap.
Oh, yeah. You know that next turn's turn 6, and since he was flaring earlier on, you know his hand's going to be pretty filled with big creatures, so you really have to expect that Savannah Hyman's going to come out next turn, and you know that you're not going to be able to control the board because you already used one of your keepers. It's not that likely that you're going to draw into the next one very time soon, so Savannah Hyman is just going to be too hard to deal with.
See, look at this. Like, the Hunter feels like he has to be the one controlling, which is
yeah.
so funny considering that most people have to respond. Yep, BGH
a turn
is
too
great,
late,
but it already picked up value by killing off the Black Knight, so essentially it's okay. Like, BGH only does 4 damage instead of 8 damage.
Yeah.
Only doing 4 damage, wow.
Still puts a body on the board, though, which, again, if you're in that race situation, just makes Savage Roar that much better. Since we see the Snake Traps, I highly doubt that Xiao has explosive traps in this deck, but I've actually seen some really high-rated Hunters that run like 1 Snake, 1 Explosive, and 1 Freezing.
He's going to push the issue because Knife Juggler cannot be ignored when it's on the board. You have to deal with it via spell removal, or he has to get another Keeper of the Grove. Because he does have Snake Trap up, but how does that interact with everything else? You know, does he kill off another body here with his? Like, does he kill off the Keeper of the Grove because he feels like he has to play control once again? It's a pretty tricky situation.
Yeah, this is probably one of the more even matchups for Hunter, and it's. I mean, right now this is just tough situations for both players to be in, and you said it. It's not often that the Hunter has to play the one that's controlling. But
I wonder. I think that Juggle was probably one of the better ones too. So even if you wanted to kill off Knife Juggler, you had to trade it off.
Yeah, Owl's decent.
Yeah, Owl is decent because you can kill off the first man of the body, but you still needed swipe or some way to. Oh no, he has played his Loatheb, so he can't even play spells.
Yeah. Wouldn't even be able to play the swipe this turn. So
this is uncomfortable.
Very. His curve right now is terrible. He just can't do really anything too meaningful this turn. I mean, I guess getting rid of the high main is pretty meaningful, but still. What to do? I mean, he's still at a pretty high health total, though.
Can you charge this Druid Claw and just go face again? And like, because you're gonna be on 9 mana next turn, you might have a chance to draw a combo. I don't know. This is an opportunity. This is a very difficult. This is a difficult position, but it might be an opportunity for Connor to also do some crazy stuff with bluffing information.
Yeah.
Because again, Hunter's been the one playing control, right?
Yeah.
So say you like. Oh no, you can't though. You have to kill his knife juggler, right? You can't do that either because of Snake Trap. What if he has Unleashed the Hounds? This is a really difficult spot the more I analyze it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think charging is the best course of action here. Like, you're like saying, please no Unleash the Hounds.
Well, this isn't that great of a hand for Xiao either. I mean, he no Unleashed the Hounds, and he's got the Cult Master as well. So, I mean, he can draw into it if he so chooses. But is he gonna have to risk this? A lot of hunters will only run one Unleash in this deck, but with that knife, wow.
No scope.
Okay.
Ooh, not too bad, not too bad. Just keep going.
Yeah, he still knows this is Snake Trap though. Yeah. So if he just draw, he'll have 9 mana next turn. If you just draw to that Savage Roar, it is going to be lethal. So is he going to clear the whole board here, or go face and try and put him on a clock to not give him the opportunity to draw into the Savage Roar as fast?
You have to start worrying about how you can kill him too, because you're going to always be on Savage Roar to lose.
Yeah.
That's the big drawback of Snake Trap.
Yeah. I mean, this Snake Trap was played. It came from a mad scientist on turn 2. So he's played around it for this many turns. And
I think he's wondering if he should like the order of how you should do things. If you should kill it off beforehand. He's gonna opt to make himself a little bit more susceptible to swipe, but should be fine because Lothep will survive anyways.
Oh, what's he gonna draw? Another force.
Oh, I guess he's gonna use his force to clear then.
Yeah, not really too many other choices here. Just putting the Lothep down on with such a big board doesn't feel really good.
Well, now Snake Trap only gives 1 creature, right? So now you can just kill off the. Oh, go face.
Wow. Yeah, he still had a pretty good health total, and he's gonna put him say, hey, I got lethal next turn. You have to make moves. I mean, 23 health is actually a lot. He's got.
Yeah, you're right. He needs to generate 3 damage.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's actually a really big draw in this situation, because that sort of gets rid of his plan.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'm really trying to wrap my head around charging there, just because there's a lot of ways for Hunter to just get that little bit of damage in, but I guess at this stage it doesn't really matter because he's going to be able to start pushing in for the final points of damage, and he basically needs a miracle to get past this,
the
right?
Keeper.
Swipe's not it.
I think the second Keeper of the Grove was the only thing that was gonna win him the game.
Oh,
in this
you're
situation.
right. Second Keeper of the Grove.
But yeah, this looks like it's. I mean, he's thinking about it, but there's just no way. Bright side is he can finally pop that Snake Trap and have all the snakes just
literal
die.
phase. Oh man. So close, yet so far. This first game came down to, like we said, the race.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing he can do. You know, he might be better off not even playing anything, conceding, because he might have to summon this Druid again later on.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to show a second
force
of
nature
nature if you don't have to.
You definitely don't want to telegraph that you have double combo.
Yeah. It's okay to swipe, because, you know, most Druids have swipe. Every Druid has swipe.
Every Druid has swipe. Every Druid has 2 swipes. I mean,
Force of Nature, though, the second one, you don't have to show it.
There's been times, though, when I'm playing against a Druid where we get down to, like, close to fatigue, and he hasn't played any swipes, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't think he has swipes, and then I play into swipe, and then he swipes, and I lose.
He should swipe and see how many cards his opponent's going to draw, just for the fun of it, you know?
Yeah. Oh, we can see what he's...
All right, so we see Undertakers, another Sea Giant.
Wow.
He's going to try to get him to mill at all so he can see cards. That's not going to be the case whatsoever. So lots of variety in that Hunter deck from XiaoGz, and he picks up a very strong game #1 win, but you know, Hunter just has so much ways to seize back tempo, despite the fact that Druid has a lot of ways as well, like Innervate and whatnot. Overall, I felt like there's no chance once he didn't get that like draw. Like he did have a chance with the Savage Roar, but The problem is he went for the runner, like the out
Yeah.
to win, and that's just such a low chance to win when you have 20 cards remaining in your deck.
Yeah, it's really rough. And then he had one more out at the end with the Keeper of the Grove, but at that point it was just he had already gone through one.
Yep.
So that time
you're
you're
right.
even digging for an rare.
That's what he was thinking about too.
Yeah.
In case he didn't have the extra damage to kill him,
Yeah.
he could have drawn Keeper of the Grove.
Yeah.
So I feel like Connor actually made the right decisions there to play the highest percentage chance, but his percentage chance to win was very low.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we move on to game number 2, where I believe XiaoGz will be the one playing the Druid, and it's interesting to see that Druid making such a comeback.
Yeah.
People thought that Druid was one of the weakest classes post Nax Rammus, and I guess it's okay. Turns out it's fine.
Well, we saw Life Coach bringing back the Miracle Druid as well. And
That's right.
He had actually quite a bit of success with that. He was actually streaming it a lot leading up to DreamHack as well. And that's a really fun deck to watch also. And
You like it?
It's sort of Miracle Rogue-esque in a way because you still have a lot of low-cost spells as the Druid, and getting that 3 card draw off of that turn 10 Wild Growth into excess mana into an extra card draw is pretty interesting, and you can really turn the tides with that. And also having a way to deal extra damage with that Force of Nature combo. I was actually playing around with it on ladder as well at the end of the last season, I believe, and I won quite a bit of games when my opponent didn't think I'd be able to have more than 14 damage on turn 9. Force of Nature, Savage Roar, double Moonfire to the face is not something that people usually expect.
That's wild, man. Good for you. Druid versus Warrior is going to be really tough for Connor, even if Gadstan is nerfed and he is playing Miracle Druid.
Yeah.
I think Druid still has plenty of answers to put on pressure to give Warrior a hard time. And
Yeah.
then Shaman versus Hunter still, it's still winnable for sure for the Shaman player. So I think XiaoGz is in a pretty decent spot to get a series advantage going to game number 4 or beyond.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I've struggled quite a bit against Druid as a Warrior. My win rate is even below 40% against that class, so a lot of times you just get overwhelmed early. A lot of times it's really hard for Warrior to deal with a lot of mid-sized creatures.
Yeah.
Because you're really great at dealing with the small stuff with your weapons. You're really great at dealing with the big stuff with your big removal like Execute and Shield Slam. But sometimes you're just forced to sort of try and gain back a little bit of board control by clearing out like Yetis, and Spectral Knights can be a real pain for Warriors to be able to deal with as well. So a lot of times they struggle. Yeah.
Well, for now, maybe if they innervate Spectral Knight, you just use the Bouncing Blade. You kill it.
Yep.
Like, it's a 3-mana deadly shot. So.
You think Commanding Shout will make a comeback with the Bouncing Blade?
Oh, man.
You're guaranteed to kill. I believe that's what would be how the interaction works.
Right, you're guaranteed to kill an enemy minion. Not to mention if you have Frothing Berserker or Armor Smiths or Acolytes.
Yeah. There's a lot of crazy combos
yeah,
that you can
there's
pull with
actually
that card.
some wild combinations, and that's what's cool, right? That not only are they bringing out new cards to play with, but perhaps that brings back some old cards into relevancy, or even maybe a little bit broken as well. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how things go. Going into game number 2, though, here, a really big win needs to come out here for Connor, or else he's going to be down 0-2, and from that point on, it's just going to be match point. You don't want to fall behind like this, although the first 3 matches are independent of each other. So, again, we have to switch decks even if you win or lose.
Yeah, and they don't know what their opponent is going up against. So they each pick predetermined 3 decks, and they don't know any information about their opponent's decks or what they're going to play. They just have to pick 3 solid decks that they think will do well against most classes and that they think they're comfortable with. And it's pretty interesting to see that. And a lot of times players will cut out like BGHs or cards like that counter specific types of decks just to make their matchup a little bit better against the classes that may not have like those 7+ attack creatures. So it's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. Well, Warrior can strike back. We'll see if that comes down in game number 2. And, I don't really see too many innovations for Warrior to be able to be strong against Druid.
Yeah.
I think the primary reason of bringing Warrior is just to kill those hunters.
Yeah.
Maybe even Zoo. Do you like Warrior against Zoo?
I don't, actually.
You don't?
It's a lot better now than it was pre-Nax because Deathbite really helps a lot
Sure.
in playing against Zoo. But it's still such a tough matchup because if you don't curve out very well early on, you can just get overwhelmed. And if you don't get a timely brawl, or if you don't see weapons early on, you can just get overwhelmed very quickly.
All right, well, we'll see if that's the case here, if the Druid's going to do similar overwhelming things. And that opening hand for XiaoGz isn't the most appealing one. He also seemed to have been dropped a card while mulliganing.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Well, this.
Well, I hope the game just gives him a 4th card, because that's actually unfair if the first player draws as many cards as you do and all you get is a coin.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure what's going on with that one, but Connor's hand is okay. Despite is always a great card to have in your hand against most matchups. I think with Druid, it's pretty well. It actually deals with Yetis pretty well, at least on that second charge. So.
Ooh. Add that to another reason why Druid probably he will be great against the Warrior here.
Yeah, not a bad curve out here for Connor on the Warrior. He does have a lot of options for trading early on. And Druid is one of those classes where you can afford to be a little bit more liberal with your Taskmasters early on, because you don't want to get to a position where you're just giving up complete board control.
I think putting on pressure here is decent, right? You can seize the board against your opponent.
Yeah.
You already know that there's a possibility he's playing Haunted Creepers and whatnot.
Yeah.
But, he goes for a more defensive approach. I guess he just wants to get his life total high enough to the point where it might not matter how much pressure Druid puts on.
Yeah.
But that's a very optimistic view, in my opinion.
Well, a lot of the times when I play against Druid as a Warrior, I'll be a few turns away from stabilizing, or maybe just so close to stabilizing, but I'll be around that threshold where Force of Nature Saboteur just kills me out. So
too low health.
Gaining health early on is actually a pretty big deal, I'd say, in this matchup.
Sure.
In a lot of cases, just because sometimes it does come down to those turns where you're just a couple damage away from being able to Force of Nature Saboteur.
Wow. And another pass from XiaoGz. This is great.
Yeah.
This is great for Connor.
Those Armor Smiths are really tough to deal with for Druids, actually, and it kind of hurts to throw a Wrath or a Wrath at Hero Power at an Armor Smith to clear it away, because it's a 2-cost, and using a swipe on it is just sort of out of the books also. So it can be pretty rough to deal with these guys, especially when you don't have an easy way to deal with 4 health creatures early on, and his curve is terrible.
So, developing this Death Spite, you're not worried. Are you worried at all about your opponent being able to coin out Harrison Jones? Or is like, what's the hesitation here for? Because I know he might put Cool Taskmaster, but I guess it debates whether or not you attack or hold on to it, right?
Yeah, and I think Harrison Jones might be what he's worried about here. I don't think there'd be much else to be worried about, though. He is going to use that charge, though, which is, I would say, is the right choice. Yeah. This Spectral Knight actually could be, it won't be that tough to deal with, because he does have that. It would be pretty much 5 damage from the Death Bite.
XiaoGz sees this. This has gotten pretty uncomfortable, honestly. His hand is pretty much jam-packed full. He needs to play something here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Spectral Knight does seem to be the best way to kill 2 for 1. You get rid of the weapon charge, you kill off one of the Armor Smiths. He's going to gain a little bit of health, but there's worse things in life, I suppose.
Yeah. Actually, doesn't even have to sack in one of the Armor Smiths if he really wants to.
Yeah, I think, but you take this opportunity to push out Harrison Jones, I think. You want to just, he's not going to be sitting.
Oh, wow.
Oh, if he wants to shield block for the armor and get some more answers. I mean, this does heavily imply he wants to go for a Cruel Taskmaster, right?
Yeah. I guess he's just not happy with his hand right now and just wants to dig for more answers before he starts emptying out his hand. I mean, it's really nice to play Harrison Jones against a non-weapon class, like right on curve.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times that'll just sit dead in your hand and you won't really find opportunities to play it, especially a 5/4. It's a little bit awkward to play, especially against Druid, so.
Well, it seems like he's going to use these smaller creatures as the activator for execute.
Yeah.
So, I mean, otherwise giving up that cool Taskmaster is like, well, you know, how are you supposed to use execute? But then that means you have to commit one of these minions to a stronger mid-range.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always feel good either, because you don't want to give up your minions. You're already low on cards, and Druid's sitting on a lot of ways to threaten you.
Yeah, so either way, you're going to end up sacrificing one of the minions, if it was either last turn or this turn,
right,
to be able to proc that execute. So this fits pretty well. He can execute the Yeti activate it with one of the small creatures, and then play out the Harrison Jones. So at least that's not going to sit dead in his hand.
We'd give up the Cruel Taskmaster as well, right?
I would
Because
say so. Health is really important resource against Druid, I'd say.
Sure. Makes sense to me.
That belongs in a museum.
Well, works out conveniently for here. And Harrison still is a reasonable sized threat to take out most things.
Or just go face.
Okay, so I suppose Connor's taking the philosophy where if the matchup's tough, you have to go aggressive.
Yeah.
To try and throw your opponent off kilter and catch him. Because, he interpreted that his opponent's been passing a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, well, he probably has a really bad hand full of situational cards, and the truth is it's half correct. The other half is actual pretty decent cards just waiting to come out. So he's going to use this opportunity to seize back momentum.
Yeah. He's thinking about Force of Nature here, and judging by his hand, that's probably the best choice. I mean, his hand is just full of, again, you said it, situational cards, and Force of Nature would allow him to clear out the Cruel Taskmaster as well as the Harrison Jones. He gained quite a bit of armor. Of course, he'd have to clear out one of the armor smiths before, but still, it'd probably be the best. Connor right now isn't sitting on that many cards. His hand is not really that deep. So forcing him to dig for more answers to deal with this Yeti might be the best choice, but he's really thinking about it in this situation.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at other Keeper and Wrath plays, but Force of Nature seems to be the most efficient for removal purposes. He's running out of time, though.
Oh, okay. Passing the turn.
Okay. If I recall correctly, this doesn't ever happen in the matchup. So I think XiaoGz actually had a disconnect of some sort.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
possible.
really unfortunate.
Yeah, you said he was.
All right. Well, we're going to have the admin check on that and make sure XiaoGz is okay. But yeah, it seems like his opponent has left.
Little unfortunate.
That's just going to indicate a DC. So XiaoGz, fortunately, is just going to lose, I think, from that position. I don't actually know, because they might regame, but
yeah.
Technically speaking, he's the one who did disconnect, and
yeah.
he was the one getting pressured, so we'll see.
I'm not sure what the ruling is in the situation, but it might be Connor's choice if he wants to be able to rematch or not, since he was the player that reconnected. But, of course, we do have admins on it right now talking with the players and seeing what's going on. So it looks like it is going to be a game restart.
They're going to rule for a game restart, which is, that actually does favor XiaoGz a lot, because his hand was one of the worst that he could probably ask for. No plays for turns 1 through 4, so this is a situation where it's unfortunate for both these guys here.
Yeah.
But definitely favoring XiaoGz, because the Druid versus Warriors is really tough, and I was feeling like there was a small opening of maybe, if he was able to pick up some more ways to be aggressive, then there was possibility of Druid getting blown out there.
Yeah, definitely. And this turn, or this game, he might even end up having like a perfect curve. And
yeah, you never know.
Who knows? But yeah, definitely a tough situation. And you said Xiao was playing from China, correct?
Yes.
So maybe there is some connection issues with the North American servers. All these games are played on America's accounts because you have to have an America's accounts to play in those Challenger Sunday Cups. We've actually had a lot of foreign players play in these tournaments. Last week was the week that was filled with UK players. So
right, Max and Phrase and all those guys.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting stuff. So sometimes they suffer from some latency issues, from some disconnect issues, but just part of the game.
It's part of the game, unfortunately, and but at the same time, it makes it cool because if XiaoGz goes all the way, then we'll be flying him in from China.
Yeah.
Giving him some nice American treatment.
Yeah.
Fill him up on In-N-Out burgers
and Chipotle.
Plenty of Chipotle.
Yeah.
And large Diet Coke sodas.
Yep.
So we'll be doing that for these players, I believe, in February of 2015.
Yeah, February 21st and 22nd, I believe are the exact dates, and it's going to be right here in the ESL Burbank studios. So really looking forward to that. $20,000 is a lot for these guys, especially for the players that might be coming from the open events.
Sure.
Being able to just be playing from your bedroom or wherever it is that you play Hearthstone. I mean, now that it's almost on tablets, the Android tablets, and it's on iPad, you can literally be playing it from anywhere. And they're coming from that to maybe even winning $20,000, which I think is really cool.
You could play. You could actually play it anywhere. I
Yeah.
found out some flights have international Wi-Fi, and I played
Wow.
on that.
Yeah, I'm actually playing it down here on this iPad that I have right below my feet.
Oh, are you?
During
Okay.
matches, yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
In fact, Zumo actually participates in a lot of the ESL Cups.
Yeah.
So eventually I might need a new co-caster if he keeps going pretty far into the tournaments.
Yeah, I made it to the round of 16 once. Usually
Yeah,
I'm usually
good
out in
for
the
you,
first
man.
or second round, but I've done pretty well for myself. I think I'm a really great Hearthstone player.
Good.
Not
man.
to flatter
As long as you
myself or
think
anything.
so.
As long as I think so.
As long as you think so.
That's really all that matters. Self-confidence.
Sure.
It's such a
It does
big
matter.
deal in Hearthstone, is just having confidence in yourself and believing in yourself. If you believe, you can achieve, Rodan.
Oh man, I think you quoted like every single poster is on my 3rd grade wall.
Yep. That's
He's like,
exactly
you
what I was
miss
going-
100% of the shots you don't take.
Wayne Gretzky. Great quote.
It's like, wasn't that Jordan? It's like, no, that was actually Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah. That was actually my major in college, was inspirational quotes.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I have a whole degree.
What
college
did
degree.
you write your senior thesis on?
That quote exactly.
Oh,
Wayne
was
Gretzky.
it?
Wayne Gretzky's quote. You miss
Right.
100% of the shots you don't take.
Gotcha.
50 pages, actually.
Gotcha.
So
50 pages. Well, you know, he is the great one for a reason. I actually like really like those quotes, generally speaking. But
Yeah.
I used to put them on Post-it notes, like on my ceiling. So every time I woke up, I'd read it to inspire me. Because you know I was going through like time where I wasn't sure what I wanted to do.
yeah.
But then, you know, eventually I took them down because the Post-it notes kept falling on my face.
Yeah.
And waking me up. And I was like, well, you're not actually helping me in life.
Yeah, it's
at
never
all.
something you want from an inspirational
Yeah.
quote, is for it to fall on your face. So
Yeah, exactly.
it could be like a metaphor for
That's my only.
you falling on your face with those quotes.
Oh man. Well, I think this conversation's gotten a little bit too
Little bit too far.
A little bit too psychoanalytical.
We'll reel it back in.
Yes.
This is a Hearthstone cast after all, Frodan.
Yeah, I don't really need life coaching that much
Yeah.
at the moment.
Maybe coaching from Life Coach.
That could also help.
Yeah.
If he's gonna be making an appearance sometime later in the ESL Cup,
Yeah.
we'll be sure to ask him.
I think he might
I'll be like, hey, what's your favorite sports quote of all time?
Yeah. That tells a lot about a person, though, I think, is what their favorite sports quote of all time is.
Yeah, I was thinking about a lot of like the really nasty ones that like the competitive players say, like, you know, Kobe Bryant or Kevin Garnett, etc.
Yeah. Well, I think we should be jumping back into the game pretty shortly here. I think we're just waiting on Xiao to reconnect, but we are waiting on that because of the rematch, because of Xiao disconnecting from the last game. So
That's right.
for those of you who just might be joining us and came to the stream and said, these guys aren't even talking about Hearthstone.
No, we don't. This is we're not even talking about Hearthstone anymore. This is just a card game, right? It's just a card game that we like to play
Yep.
all day, every single day.
All right, well, looks like we're back into the rematch game, and
Okay.
I'd say this is a little bit better of a curve here for Xiao. He's got the Innervate in his opening hand. He's at least got some plays on some of these earlier turns. At the same time, though, Connor's he's sitting pretty. He's got Fire War Axe and the Death Bite in his hand already. Fire War Axe actually isn't that great of a card against this more ramp-heavy Druid because it just doesn't do that much against a lot of 5-6 health creatures. It's mostly, I find myself with Fire War Axe mostly using it as like an execute activator, which always seems a little bit awkward. I guess the faster Druid it's a little bit better, but I feel like Death Bite is such a better card, and wow, the Innervated Spectral Knight is such a tough thing to deal with for a warrior.
Yeah, it is. Starting to wonder. I guess you just coin out Death's Bite and you use a second charge to kill off this Spectral Knight.
Yeah. Or you silence it and hope you draw into an execute.
Well, we tried that route a couple games ago with Connor. He tried hoping for the best off the top of his deck, but didn't come through.
It's not usually the best line of play that you want to take, unless you know that it's going to be your only out in a situation. Or I mean, if you feel like you're in a matchup that's not great for you as the game goes on, sometimes you have to just sort of put your faith in your top decking skills.
Do you want to take 12 damage to kill off with a Fiery War Axe with one creature? Oh man.
To be honest, I just don't think he really has much of a choice in this situation.
I think Death's Bite is a better alternative, honestly.
Yeah, I would actually agree there, and this is sort of what I was talking about with a lot of times Fire War Axe just sits dead in my hand. Because I mean, what is he gonna do next turn? Just get rid of his Fire War Axe and then put on a Death Bite? That's such an underwhelming turn. He doesn't have a really great curve. His hand is full of huge creatures. I mean, Owl is okay, but
What do you think about wrathing? Just and then put in. Is it okay, like to wrath an Armor Smith and kill it off?
I would say so.
just trade 2 mana card for 2 mana card.
Yeah.
You give it a little bit of extra health.
You
But,
could just well take out the Armor Smith and then just
hero
power up.
Yeah.
This way, you know that your Spectral Knight's going to die next turn anyway to the Fire War Axe charge. I mean, it's sort of enticing to try and get the full 12 damage out of that, but you know that if he just plays a Fire War Axe and passes on that last turn, that his hand may not be that great, so you can afford to give up a little bit of the board for that.
All right. Well, he's going to coin out Sylvanas most likely next turn because that's the only thing he has in his early curve other than 2 Ironbeak Owls. And that will prompt his opponent to play a 5-drop to answer it and hope that he gets Keeper of the Grove. So this Sylvanas will be heavily influencing the game if XiaoGz doesn't have a response immediately to it.
He actually didn't use the Death Bite charge, the first Death Bite charge as well, so there'll be anything that's dropped here is going to stick.
Well, I mean, unless he charges Druid Claw, but that's not proper.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, Lothab coming out here denies the coin Sylvanas, so now he's going to have to deal with this again. Oh, man.
Oh, jeez. He just can't. I mean, he can
Silence all Lothab.
attack face, and yeah, that's it.
I seen that actual response before where, like, I was playing Arena yesterday, and I got Dr. Boom in an Arena draft with my friend, and he silenced Dr. Boom because he thought that, like, dealt with the bombs, but it didn't happen at all.
Nope.
So.
I've actually seen people do that with, yeah, like you said, with Lothab.
Right, exactly. It's like, well, you
silence
know.
Lothab to make my spells cost less.
Exactly.
And it happens at embarrassingly high ratings as well. So.
Well, no, the reality is with new cards, you're bound to make mistakes. So as much as
yeah.
you know, people can giggle and like, no one actually does that, Frodan. Yes, people actually do.
Yeah.
You probably did it too.
There's going to be a lot of experimenting, and I actually was playing Arena as well. The new what the Shrinkmeister. I even said it before, but I forgot the name. The priest card, the 2-drop that makes it so you're
Shrinkmeister.
Is Shrinkmeister?
Yeah.
I thought that it would carry over to the next turn as well. So I used the Shrinkmeister as a way to sort of block damage and coming to my face, and I ended up losing for it. So.
Well, you know, that Shield Slam is actually a really nice draw here.
Yeah.
So he can. Ooh.
Oh, what's better than 1 Shield Slam?
Well, he has 2 Shield Slams, but I think he can just use 1 here.
Yeah. He can still clear everything with just the 1.
Although,
You think there's merit in actually using the second Shield Slam here?
I like keeping the coin, but I like keeping the coin because you have Ragnaros next turn.
Yeah.
But I think there is merit to it because you can threaten the Ancient of Lore.
Yeah.
And, well, okay, I was going to say you can threaten the Ancient of Lore and still play something else, but it still applies the next turn as well.
Yeah.
Because you would have the coin. So in the end, the difference is about the same.
Yeah. You're saving some damage, but like you said, in the end, it's all going to come down to being about the same. And next turn, he's pretty much limited in what he can play. Sylvanas is going to be really his only choice, unless he draws into something. Baron Geddon would actually be pretty good. Yeah. Acolyte could be an option, but at the same time, well, at least you'd be guaranteeing at least 1 draw from the Acolyte.
Yeah, Sylvanas does have a higher impact on the board, though.
Yeah.
It'll most likely force both minions to trade in unless he has Keeper of the Grove.
Yep.
Okay, or just 1. So if his opponent has like Wrath, he'd probably like attack it, Wrath, and move on in life. Ah, and that timing, Harrison Jones coming in just as the weapon's being used up.
Yeah. And he actually had a couple turns to draw that as well because he held on to that Death Bite for a little bit.
Yeah, quite unfortunate.
Yeah, and his spell is, or his hand is just completely full of spells at this point, and it just seems like a turn too late for everything here. Ancient of Lore coming in on turn 8.
Sure.
It's not the worst thing in the world, but definitely not the best curve. I guess he'll still have mana to hero power next turn if he decides to go for a play like that.
Oh. Well, now I'd say we start putting on pressure. Although, here's the thing. Ragnaros is going to do the same exact thing as Alexstrasza anyways.
Yeah.
So maybe you can use Alexstrasza as a way to bait out any big game hunters, and then you drop Ragnaros afterwards.
I definitely agree here. I think that you just sort of probably even just drop the Harrison Jones here.
With the Acolyte?
With the Acolyte, yeah.
Sounds good to me.
And I think that's exactly what he's going to do. But I definitely agree that using the Alexstrasza as the bait is the better choice.
Not to mention that if Harrison sticks, you have Alexstrasza hit him down to 10.
Yep.
Then you have Ragnaros to help push the distance.
Yep. Oh, and he actually just... Oh, wait, no, he played both. It was just a delay on the spectator
Yep.
client. We can't see their cursors, so it's...
Ooh, so he has combo.
Yeah, but he's still
See.
pretty far away from it. Well,
21 health. Swipes puts him down to 13. Yeah, if he just armors up though, it's too idealistic. You probably have to.
yeah, and then
Ancient of Lore here.
you'd be giving him 2 draws as well, so
Correct.
which is definitely not something that you want to be doing. He has already been through.
Oh man,
Wow.
seeing double. And you might pick up Innervate, so that gives him 22 damage from the hip.
He's used 1 Innervate already this game. He actually used that to Innervate out the Spectral Knight earlier on, but yeah, here's gonna be the Alexstrasza, and he could start pressuring damage here.
Yeah, Warrior has a shot, that's for sure.
And getting the right curve there as a warrior is actually pretty crucial in this matchup. You really need to draw into those win conditions pretty quickly because you have to be able to consecutively play a lot of threats to be able to keep yourself in the game. Or else you're just going to give the Druid time to just sort of draw into those finishing combos. And he took so much damage earlier on, especially that rough turn where he had to take so much damage from the Spectral Knight. He's going to clear the Alexstrasza here with these
Yeah, he
Force
has
Nature.
to. There's just no alternative. And he does have second Savage Roar though, so I guess he's on draw for the final piece of the combo.
Yeah.
And until then, he's still got some decent responses to remove, but this is exactly what Connor wanted to see. The fact that his opponent didn't have a very efficient way to remove Alexstrasza.
Yeah. And it still seems like the only way he's going to have to remove the Rag next turn is going to be by double swiping, which never feels good.
Doesn't feel good, but at least it gives him an answer, which is why Baron Geddon might have even been a reasonable choice as well. It puts him down to 7 health, though, because he does have the ability to use the weapon here.
Still haven't seen the big game hunter. We saw that last game, but has not made an appearance for Xiao in this game, and it's really hurting him at this point. He's had to use a lot. He's had a couple of awkward turns trying to deal with these big threats that Connor's been putting down, and this is just so awkward for him to be able to deal with this. There's no good way to do it.
Yeah, I think he has to double swipe here.
Yeah. And then he's got to be thinking in the back of his head, well, if I double swipe, then I'm almost for sure going to be dead next turn. There's already been, what, 1 Cruel Task Mesher? I can't remember if this was this game.
The only alternative is to play minions and hope he doesn't hit you.
Yeah, well, he can taunt up his Ancient Allure to protect it.
That's what he has to do, otherwise silence.
Yep.
Which is not exactly how you anticipate going out here.
Yeah.
And let's see, actually
still,
with
he
2
could
rags, he has 2 silences.
Yeah, it's
That's
lethal.
actually really funny because the 2 owls will strike back. And Ragnaros will get ushered in for the victory as that's going to wrap up game number 2. And XiaoGz drops a very important game here. The Druid is supposed to take out the Warrior, but the opposite happened.
Yeah, so both games, and we did see the disconnect in the first game, but the second game didn't seem to go too much better for him. Double Owl. Warrior, a lot of times we'll see Warriors usually just run 1 Owl, but in that case,
I like it.
It made his hand a little bit dead for a while, but at the same time, it gives him a lot of win conditions later in the game, and you can see just right there. I've actually seen a lot of mislethals with being able to silence Ragnaros. I think when you're so focused on Rag just doing random damage, but he spotted it out. Not the hardest of lethals to spot, but he's going to take it.
I like Double Owl because I think it gives you a lot of early game answers, especially to Hunter. So you're able to just drop something on turn 2, silence a Haunted Creeper or a Mad Scientist,
Yep,
and
definitely.
then just trade evenly with cards. In fact, that's probably one of the best responses Warrior can do if you don't have Fire War Axe.
Yeah.
So double Ironbeak Owl, especially in this format, makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, with a class that's so reliant on just keeping themselves in early and being able to stabilize.
Yep.
I really agree with that. And you said Mad Scientist. I think that's the one of the best targets to silence as a warrior with the Ironbeak Owl, just because those traps can be really annoying for warriors to deal with.
For sure. Now we go into game number 3 as Shaman versus Hunter. This is an opportunity for Connor to start turning it around here. And the Hunter can seal the game away just by the nature the Shaman can't heal yet until they get that totem from GVG. And the Hunter can keep putting on pressure until the point where, well, Shaman just keels over because they can't keep up with the pace of the game.
Yeah, you're just focusing so much on trying to remove the board that eventually you just run out of answers to be able to finish the game. But I still think that if a Hunter has a little bit of a rough start and you can remove creatures pretty efficiently early on, there's actually a lot of ways for you to keep yourself in the game and then eventually finish. And
Sure.
I think running a couple different win conditions really helps, especially if the Hunter puts you on a clock. Because Hunters or Shamans don't have any way to regain health. They will in GVG. I think there was a totem
Yeah, the healing totem.
Yeah,
like I said.
that healed your face.
It's I don't know what it's called, but it's like at the end of your turn, just restore like 3 or 4 health to the hero. So
Yeah.
pretty good. And I like it because it gives Shaman flexibility to win those war of attrition without just like being counted down for the entire time.
Yeah.
And that's going to definitely come into play into the matchups like these, for example, Hunter versus Shaman. So I'm looking immediately at the Shaman to be the game breaker here. The Hunter deck is going to be pretty homogenous to what we've seen in the past,
Yeah.
with a lot of the same thing of Undertakers, some traps, the High Mains. I think that if Shaman has the early game cards, like even Zombie Chows or Haunted Creepers with a lot of the early removal spells, it's going to have an easy time to remove it. And then at a certain point, if Shaman just gets up in the card count, there's almost nothing that Hunter can do. But that's assuming this is a regular Hunter. You know, we thought that maybe
Wow.
this would be a Hunter that would have the normal package of stuff, but instead, this looks to be the YOLO Hunter.
Yes, indeed. Just go face. That's the strategy for this one.
This is a very hard matchup for Shaman. Even he even has a Zombie Chow in his
Yeah.
deck, but that's still really hard to deal with. The saving grace is that Connor seems to have an awful turn 1.
Yeah.
And that actually is a really big deal, the fact that he loses his turn 1. Because now Shaman can curve while being able to use the coin to keep the board clear.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty fantastic opening hand for Xiao here. He's got, like you said, he's on curve. He can play a lot of threats earlier on. He even has the Earth Shock to deal with something pesky early on.
Yep.
And it's looking pretty good for him. And, I mean, you said that this matchup is a little bit tough for Shaman. They don't have ways to regain health, so having to be reactive in the Shaman matchup as the Shaman against Hunter is really bad because he's going to be doing damage to face. The Wolf Rider is going to do 3 damage. You're going to be reactive and then deal with it. Then the Arcane Golem's going to deal 4 damage. Then you're going to be reactive and deal with it. You just never can catch up against that face Hunter a lot of time, and then eventually they're just going to burst you down. So
I like the hesitation, wondering if he can keep the coin at all, because turn 3 Defender of Argus is one of the best plays you can also do against Hunter.
Yeah.
If you don't have Feral Spirits.
Yep.
Okay, so he's got a myriad of choices here, but I think Animal Companion here has to roll not Huffer.
Really an awkward situation, though. 5 3-drops in his hand.
Okay, that's actually not bad at all.
One of the situations where Liak is actually one of the better choices.
Right, or even another situation where as much as you want Huffer, you don't want it to just easily die to a Zombie Chow.
Yeah.
Because now your other stuff does a little bit more damage. Is it me or Kill Command glowing orange?
Yeah, that's an activated ability now, or an activated card glows orange whenever whenever the secondary effect is activated.
Cool.
So like that new The Tinkmaster card, not Tinkmaster.
I thought I was tripping, man. I was like, guys, I'm pretty sure I ate a normal breakfast and drank regular coffee, right? Milkcast is in the production room giggling. Yeah, we got him, guys.
Yeah, I like that effect. It's actually a pretty cool effect, especially if you don't really notice.
Sure.
There's been a lot of times where I think something's a beast, but then I realize that it's not a beast, and I'll use Kill
Yep.
Command and it'll be 3 damage. But if it's orange, then I know.
Well, 5 of a kind. He's got 3 mana cost minions, or sorry, cards here that all have little to no impact. The Wolf Rider getting stopped by the first body of the Harvest Golem. This is a bad spot for Hunter, but it can easily be recouped if Shaman hits some dead draws here.
The
Nope.
the
All right.
infamous deck of 3s for Hunter. It's a deck that relies on 3 very distinct power spikes in the game. Turn 3, turn 6, and turn 9. Just filled with 28 3-drops and 1 Leper Gnome.
Oh, I thought you were being serious for a second. I was like, what's on turn 9 other than King Crush off a web spinner?
No, on turn 3 you can play 1. On turn 6 you
Sure.
play 2 3-drops. Turn 9 you can get a little crazy. You play 3 3-drops.
That's right. That's the dream. Well, Unleash the Hounds here. I guess he's going to accompany it with the kill command to try to shut things down.
Yeah.
He could try to roll Animal Companion, but that also could backfire if
Yeah.
he just gets Misha, which is really passive.
Kill Command is a lot more of a reliable choice in this situation.
You know, and he even heals back a little bit up. So this is his way to fight back for the board.
Yep.
But, you know, this is a pretty good spot for Shaman. He gets a board clear. He gets a 6/5 out there. He has a really imposing board to do a lot of damage, and there's no clear sign of a way to remove it other than, I guess, basically committing a lot of your resources to kill out this Fire Elemental. So it looks like you have to race.
Yeah, it always feels amazing when you're the Shaman player playing against Hunter, and you can play out a Fire Elemental on curve on turn 6
And not
And-
be dead the next turn.
and not be dead the next turn.
Right.
So, and be able to clear the board also.
Yeah, while
which
getting
is-
a back rub from Kate Upton.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would
That's
be.
like the dream scenario for every Shaman player.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can confirm. Am Shaman player.
All right. Well, you know, Misha is annoying, but not impossible to deal with, right? You just use the Rock Biter to push
Yep.
through, or Shock. You even okay? I think we can drop the Manatide Totem
Yeah.
here and just draw cards. Because if you can blow out the card count, you'll always have the perfect response. Hex on the high mains. You have the removals.
Yeah, we might need to amend our perfect situation here for Shamans because I can't even remember the last time I was able to
Yep.
lay a Manatide Totem on a board where on turn 8 or turn 7, when I'm at more than 20 health against a Hunter, and I'm able to utilize that card draw fish.
Yeah, this is
Oh.
brutal. Oh man, he's gonna have to use
Ouch.
Explosive Trap to start lessening the damage. But the problem is he wants to weave into hero power as well.
Looking pretty grim right now for Connor, I'd say.
Yeah, this Hunter gets stopped by one thing, which is a lot of taunts.
Yep. Or just a handful of 3-drops as well. In this game,
Sure.
he had the worst of both worlds.
Yep. Yes, sir. Urshock on this is perfect. Deny
Yep.
the draw.
And I don't know what he can draw to get himself back into the game here. Do you think this deck runs Savannah High Mains at all?
I think so,
Okay.
but I don't even think High Main pulls him back because High Main just
It's just
he
get
just dies to
completely
damage
clear.
next turn.
Yep.
You don't even need to hero power here. You don't need to give him an extra Unleash the Hound Dog.
Yeah. Drawing a card just as a little bit extra insurance. That won't do it.
Oof.
I don't think anything would have done it in this situation.
Yeah.
Well
I
done.
mean, he's just going to concede with this. It doesn't look like, because he would have played Explosive Trap. So
Yeah.
that's going to do it for Game 3. XiaoGz takes the lead in the series. And you know what? It seems like these matchups, which one deck might have the edge, doesn't seem to be the one taking it.
Yeah.
It's the low percentages, the unfavorable matchups that seem to go the opposite way. And that's what makes it cool, because as much as you're like, well, Hunter's really good,
Yeah.
it's like, well, actually, it can lose.
Yeah, and it can fall flat on its face like we saw in that game. When you watch a game and you think a class is so dominant, especially against a specific matchup, and then you watch it just, I mean, I think Connor had like or Xiao, sorry, Xiao, who was playing the Hunter, had like 22 health at the end of that game, or
Sure,
18,
sure.
18 to 20 health, which is a pretty big number considering that was a face Hunter.
Yep, yep. Absolutely. So going into game 4, now this enters the blind pick phase. This is a really
Whoa.
interesting concept that we're experimenting with here.
Yep.
The idea is now all gloves are off. You've seen all 3 decks from your opponent. You know what kind of deck it is. Hopefully you know what kind of deck it is. And you can pick whatever you want as many times as you want it until the first person gets 3 points to win the best of 5.
Yep. And this sort of, I talked about the one-trick ponies earlier on who are really comfortable with one deck. You can either go that route where you just play the class that you're most comfortable with, or you can try and play some mind games. Think back, what do I think my opponent is going to play based off the decks that I've shown him so far?
Mhm.
He's seen my 3 decks. What do I think he's going to pick? And then maybe pick a counter
Yeah.
to the deck that your opponent is going to try and counter you with. So a lot of mind games going on. A lot of deep thought is probably being done by these players to see what exactly is going to be the best deck to bring out in this situation.
Yeah, let's actually pull up the versus screen and then take a look at the classes, because I think there is a lot of layers of like what can he play versus what can I play out the field. We know that there's no Warlock on each side. They
Yeah.
both have Druid, and they both have Druid and Hunter. The difference is the Shaman versus the Warrior. And looking at the lineup, it seems like XiaoGz is going to be leaning towards the Shaman deck, because Shaman against Druid, Warrior, and Hunter seem to be reasonable.
Yeah.
While Connor seems to favor his Druid, because his Druid, I guess he doesn't really want his Warrior to line up poorly, because it gets 2 or 3 classes.
Yeah.
And Hunter, I think he doesn't like playing the mirror, and also he doesn't like his chances against everything else. So Druid seems to be a safe choice here.
Druid is always that pretty consistent class that matches up pretty well against everything. And in a situation like this, it's going to be the best choice more times than not, but that Shaman deck, like you said, matches up pretty well against all these decks, and it just seemed like Xiao really felt pretty comfortable playing that Shaman, and so that may just come down to a comfort pick to him, and may come down to just how much he wants to show off that Shaman deck in this situation. But what are your thoughts on this matchup? Shaman versus Druid. We saw Connor's Druid. His was the one I believe that was very token heavy.
Yeah, I think the Shaman matchup against Druid is still really good for Shaman.
Yeah.
Druid still can sneak it away because they have the ability to combo and they have decent ability to handle the board. But I just look at cards like Feral Spirit seizing away the ability for Druid to ever exercise their hero power well.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Shaman has so many ways to deal with a lot of Druid's trickiness. Earthshock on Haunted Creepers,
Yep.
Lightning Storm against the Echoing Oozes. There's a lot of ways for them to deal with it. Even Flame Tongue Totem against Spectral Knights. There's just plenty of ways for them to answer. I'm looking at Shaman to be the favorite here, but Shaman also could sometimes just draw poorly. They don't have a good curve. Everything's awkward. They only have responses, not threats.
And they a lot of times I feel like I run out of juice when I'm playing Druids sometimes. You mentioned they're playing very reactive. A lot of their draws are reactive, and they don't draw into like the Azure Drakes or the Gnomish Inventors if they're running those. If they don't do that, then sometimes they can just run out of cards and just be rolled over by the Druid player. But I definitely agree the Shaman has quite a bit of tools to be able to deal with a lot of that the Druid is going to throw out here. And throws away both Lightning Bolts, holds on to the Rockbiter weapon.
But he gets the Zombie Chow. And again, it's about securing the board early.
Yeah.
I really like the Zombie Chows in the Shaman. I ran it for a season.
Yeah.
And it's just so effective in the current metagame. The only downside is, of course, late game it's horrible, and it does weaken your handlock matchup a lot.
Yeah.
So
Because you're relying in the handlock matchup on
the burst.
the
alone,
burst, yeah. And if they can just leave that Zombie Chow on the board for a timely time when they want to remove it, and a lot of times it just gets caught in the Hellfire of the Shadow Flame. But wow.
Taunt Totem's pretty brutal too.
Yeah.
Because now like Haunted Creeper actually does nothing because it just gets bullied.
Yeah, and he curves out pretty well here. He's got Harvest Golem for turn 3 and Defender Vargas for turn 4. So, again, looking pretty good for Xiao. Now, there's a lot of answers here for Connor as well.
Oh my. The fact that he drew Zombie Chow in the first 8 cards in his deck is really valuable because now, again, one thing I really like about Zombie Chow is it fills the curve out really well.
Yep.
A lot of times you're overloaded and it's like, oh, I only have 3 mana, I can only hero power, but you can slide into Zombie Chow.
Yep.
Again.
Yeah, for a while I was only running one Zombie Chow in my decks, but then I realized just how good it is.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes
if you
it's
get
a
it early,
4-3
yeah,
with Flame Tongue Totem.
exactly. Which is like the perfect situation, the perfect scenario to be able to utilize that Zombie Chow with. But
Okay. So this this positioning sells Flame Tongue Totem, but of course we know that's Defender of Argus.
yeah,
So that's a clever maneuver from XiaoGz.
and that's why he thought about that turn a little bit, really thinking about what positioning he wanted to go with there, because it was pretty obvious that Harvest Golem was going to be his choice, but he took a little bit to make the turn just because he wanted to make sure that he was putting that Harvest Golem
Precisely.
in the exact position that that he would need it to be in for this turn to go his way. And again, an awkward turn here for Connor.
He wants to save the coin for something better. Is there any use of other cards? Is there even use for... I guess Savage Roar is not that great, right? If you use it, you just take out the 2/3.
Yeah,
And then you're left with 2 1/1s versus Harvest Golem, which is very meh. I don't think that's your best option, although it is an option. Versus just silencing Totem doesn't feel great either. I think you do want to keep your coin.
yep. You can put out a Spectrum Knight next turn, which is actually a pretty big deal because that can be tough for Shamans to deal with. You know, Spectrum Knight's just tough for everybody to deal with. We'll just go ahead and lump everybody in there.
Yeah. I mean, the way when you use Savage Roar in this scenario is like, well, I used it to gain +4 damage essentially across the board.
Yeah.
Alright, so you choose to take out the Harvest Golem, which is should be okay, but he's about to get his world rocked by Defender of Argus here. Oh, well, I guess it sets up for a swipe, though.
It would play into a swipe pretty well if that's what he did. And I think that's what's going through Xiao's head right now.
But I think this is too good to pass up.
Yeah, anything else
honestly.
is just not going to fit onto curve, and using
Yeah.
any type of removal on the Spectral Spiders is...
Yep.
You can't do that.
Yeah. So you just kill off one of these, push for face. Well, I guess he could also have his own Argus, so I guess you should kill off the 1/1.
Yeah. Because if you're thinking of a swipe coming in, the swipe is going to do the same with the Spectral Spider no matter what.
Right, right. It's just about whether or not you push for the extra damage to the face.
That's true.
But, you know, you don't want to give another ability for your opponent to have a buff target.
Yeah.
Druid might have Arcus or something. But if he swipes, that gives you the board, which normally you're happy, but this is where it's like, well, I need a little bit more than Zombie Chow.
Yeah, I need a little bit more than one drops going on.
Drake
in my
would
game
be
right
great
now.
here.
Whoa!
Oh.
Hello, Frodan the Mystic.
Greetings. I was going to say, well, I guess you follow it with another thing on curve, too. Fire Elemental is
Yep.
perfect.
What can you hope to
Oh,
draw
boy.
into when you play a turn 5 Asher Drake? A Fire Elemental.
Exactly. Spectral Knight, a little inconvenient, just the health total.
Yep.
Just shows you how much +1 health matters, because you get difference between keeping a Drake and the Argus is actually massive.
Yeah.
Considering you have 2 lightning bolts in hand.
Yeah, dealing with that Spectral Knight
Like,
would be a little bit awkward.
Lotheb is not the right play because of Fire Elemental, and you should always have that in the back of your mind, because turn 6 is always something you're cautious about when it comes to Shaman.
Yeah. And not even much thought given to this. Well, no,
There's not really much alternative.
Zombie Chow, hero power.
It's just sad because you do have the Drake, which means if you get a spell power totem, those lightning bolts kills Yetis and
Yep.
Ancient of Lores.
Which is a pretty big deal. Because actually, that's a huge
That's a really
deal.
big deal, yeah. Exactly, which is why it's important Connor didn't play his Lotheb instead.
Because next turn would be the Ancient of Lore turn, just because if he's keeping track, he knows that he has to coin it. He's actually just gonna bypass this.
Whoa! That's something I wasn't expecting. Keeping the Spectral Knight alive.
Well, why? Okay, so let's think of his reasoning here.
He's got so much damage in hand.
Yeah.
Look at that. He's got 9 damage, assuming this Drake goes down.
He draws into like a Flame Tongue or
Right.
something. There's just so much damage on board,
Precisely.
and forcing him to make the trade that, as a Druid player, you
That
sort
he's
of
gonna
have to
make
get back.
anyway.
Yeah,
It's just that he loses the 3 damage on the Fire Elemental.
that's true.
So he has to lose his Arcus now as well.
Ooh, see, this is that hand. I mean, 4 1-drops, a Hana Creeper, and a Hex.
Well, that helps him get rid of this 2/4 pretty easily, so...
Best totem that he could have rolled.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he's going to keep that Defender Vargas alive.
Yeah, absolutely. You value your board, so then Flame Tongue Totem becomes really powerful. XiaoGz may have even rushed a little bit because the positioning, I guess that's okay as long as it's at the very end, but any totem thereafter is also going to have a hard time trading.
Yeah, you're saying you want all the totems all the way to the right and put the Haunted Creeper in.
Generally speaking.
Yeah.
I mean, for now it's okay, but every turn after this.
It'll allow you to trade more efficiently with your totems.
Yes, sir.
Well, this is not the best turn. This is sort of the place where you'd want to have that Ancient Allure in your hand, but I guess playing the Lothep isn't too bad of a situation. Going to be an 8-mana Hex if he decides to use that, but...
Seems like Connor really likes his owls. He's playing Owl in Druid, which already has access to 2 silences, so he plays 3 silences.
Owl is a great card, man.
You know what's even better card right now than Owl? It's a Doomhammer.
Yep.
And he just uses Rockbiter, but no worries. He's still got lots of damage. Now the problem is he does have a Zombie Chow out there, which means it's a liability to keep him healed. It essentially takes damage off his Doomhammer, but it's still 16 for 5 mana. I think it's too good to pass up here. He's also worried about Harrison Jones because he saw it in Connor's Druid deck.
Yeah, and a lot of the times you're not too... The first turn you play the Doomhammer, you're not too worried about it, just especially against control classes, because a lot of times they're just not in any position where they can use Harrison unless they want to discard cards. But right now, this would be a perfect Harrison turn.
You just got to go for it.
Yeah, there's just no other option. Use your entire turn to... Oh, no, he was overloaded, so he couldn't even use the Hex.
Right. Uh-oh.
Probably not what he wanted to see.
Guess he heals up a little bit. Crosses his fingers, load the board as much as he can. Haunted Creeper, Spectre Knight. Not Haunted Creeper, sorry. Echoing Ooze, Spectre Knight.
Yeah, Rockbiter would be lethal next turn, though.
So I guess you hero power. If he has Rockbiter, he has 13 on board, right? So he has 16 because of the Lightning Bolt, but you don't count for that. You count for the Rockbiter, I guess.
Yeah, and you know that he's already used 1, so you're not going to account for that Lightning Bolt at all.
Okay.
So he thinks he's safe right now.
Sure.
That's actually really great.
Yeah. Snipe on the Lotheb and a Lightning Bolt. Actually, hold on. How does he do this here? He can board clear if he just use a Lightning Bolt on the Lotheb and then shoot down the Spectre Knight. Or you can just ignore and just go face. I mean, honestly, that's fine too.
Yeah. I don't think the Spectral Knight's really going to be that huge of a threat right now, especially since you still have a lot of charges that Doomhammer left. And it's kind of annoying to have to deal with that.
Right.
Because your damage doesn't really add up to allow you to deal with that really nicely.
He was pretty close to killing him, by the way.
It was 13 damage that turn, I believe, even with just the Fire Elemental. Because he had that Spell Power Totem.
Right.
What's he thinking about here?
Well,
Lightning Bolt on what?
Yeah, he was 1 damage off lethal. Oh my goodness.
Oh, 1 damage. Oh, wow. Okay.
Right, because he Fire Elemental with Lotheb, so imagine that 3 went to face, would have been 8. He had a 4 damage Lightning Bolt plus 3 on the board.
Oh, wow.
He was 1 damage off killing him. That's pretty impressive. Connor needs to have something. Oh, that's just not it.
Double Echoing Ooze.
I would say Swipe was his only way to get back in because he needs to kill off this Fire Elemental, but he can't even do it.
Yeah.
I mean, he can at the cost of his health. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I think XiaoGz should be the one taking this series, barring any kind of oversight on killing his opponent here.
Which it's kind of hard to.
Right, because he's been thinking about it the entire time.
Yeah, and just because it's pretty obvious lethal here, so should be Xiao moving on, and Connor falling down, and he put a lot of faith in that Druid deck, but it looks like it's not going to be as effective as he'd want it to be, and looks like he is going to concede that out, seeing no opportunity for him to be able to come back in this game. So well played by Xiao. That Shaman deck, you can see, just plays with such confidence there.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, and he's going to move on to the winner's bracket to face against KXN?
Yes, KXN 3-0 to Silent Storm to start off the day. That's right. It's we're already 2 series in. We have the winners finals that will determine one person to go through.
Yep.
And then we have the 4th place match, the 3rd place match, and then maybe one up to wrap the day. We'll see how things go.
Yep.
That series was brought to you by Newegg.com as well as Western Digital and Crucial for all your memory and storage needs. Make sure to check out all of the brands that we've mentioned at Newegg.com. Do that while we take a break, and when we come back, we'll have more action here from Burbank Studios and ESL America hosting the Hearthstone Legendary Series.